Well, welcome everybody. Let's start by opening in prayer. Father, we bless your holy, wonderful, beautiful name. We know that you are the one that we look to for all that we need. Well, welcome everybody. And you are the one that keeps us, holds us, makes us who we are. And so, Father, help us to be the people, the men and the women that you called us to be. Give us courage and bravery and the ability to navigate the times that we're in. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, we got a lot of information for you tonight, so hold on to your seats. Let's see, I've
hit refresh.
It appears that I'm frozen.
If you go click on that bell up there, it says mark it on, and you click on his picture.
Am I live over there? Am I moving? Because I'm frozen on my end.
No. Just tell them I'm helping somebody get in the room before we start.
PK's helping somebody get in. I'm going to refresh because I don't know if that'll work. If I get cut off,
You're moving.
I don't see myself moving.
That's because you're 30 seconds behind.
No, that's not it.
I didn't see you moving when you were doing prayers, and then you finally started moving.
Okay, if I'm good on your end, that's all that matters. I won't refresh then. For those of you that are not part of our staff, we sent out email.
I asked you to wait.
Oh, I gotta wait.
Yeah, wait until some other people get in the room. I'm not playing this game.
Okay, Patty's in there if that's the one you're thinking.
She is?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So we sent out an email to our students with some information. And like we always like to tell you that we do is we listen to the prophetic voices in America, around the world, and then we marry those prophetic utterances to the events that are going on. And they're astounding. They're literally astounding. And we're going to start, one of the guys that I've followed since about 1997, 96, 97 is a guy named Kim Clement. He passed away not too long ago. And his prophetic gift was just amazing. And so I'm going to read you one of the things he said that has to do with the context of what we're talking about tonight. And this was on April 20th, 2013. He said, "Someone just a few minutes ago took the American flag and raised it up and said, 'I am proud of my country.' God said, 'You have been determined through your prayers to influence this nation.'" Now, he went on to say, "How do we kill the giants of debt? How do we kill the giants of socialism? How do we kill the giants of human secularism? I have placed that man among you." Listen carefully to what I am telling you. Take all these little gems. The name and the word gold. And God says, "He that rejects him shall be shocked at how he takes the giant down." God says, "Watch." I said, 20,000. Look not to Wall Street, but however observe. They shall say, "What is your plan for this giant?" And he will take a simple stone. Remember the name gold. And he will hold it up. And they will laugh at him. But the plan is so brilliant, says the Lord, it could only have been given by me. So That's an amazing prophecy. Now, when we look at that prophecy, there's some things that come together, and I came across, I had a gentleman talking to me about what I'm about to tell you guys way long ago, and he was actually part of the Bush family, but he didn't agree with his own family in Texas, and he lives in Texas. And he was trying to share with me some of this stuff, and I was kind of brushing it off because I thought, no, that can't be true. And so I always kept it in the back of my mind, but I never really gave much credence to it. But there's a man that is responsible for all this, and God told me to go and look up his last name to see what it meant. And his last name means son of gold. Son of gold. His last name is Gould. Russell J. Gould. Okay, that's Gould. Now, Kim Clement also prophesied that we would have two presidents, which makes us wonder how in the world this happens. When America was colonized, it was done under British rule, if you will remember. And when we partook in a war against England, called the Revolutionary War, the United States won their freedom. Our freedom was flown under the American flag. 1776. And before the Civil War between the North and the South broke off from the Union. With that went the tax revenue coming in. Now, it was mostly the southern states that was using slave labor, and slave labor produces high profits. High profits produce high, back then they were using tariffs on goods sold overseas to raise money for the government. And so when you had the South break away from the North, they took with them most of the revenue to run the government. Now, this is where trouble starts. President Lincoln realized that without the South, the northern states and the federal government could not survive. And this is why he basically went to war. This was his primary reason. He had to preserve the Union in order to preserve the North. And in fact, he's even quoted as saying, how will we fund the government without the South? So he sold the war as a slavery issue, and it was that too. It wasn't a singular issue. But the primary issue was financial. But when we got done with the battle, we so decimated the South, they were bankrupt, and we were bankrupt as well, because the South is the one that produced most of the revenue. So in comes the trouble. In the year 1871, Lincoln was already dead. Andrew Johnson was his vice president. He was already out of office. Ulysses S. Grant had been voted in. And along come the Rothschilds from London, offering to give us a loan. Now the Rothschilds are, I don't know how much you know of the Rothschilds, but they come up out of the Knights Templar, and they're a very, very rich family. And they had the bank in the city of London. Now, notice that term, City of London, not London, City of London. There's a difference. Now I'm going to explain that. And so they made a deal to loan money, but the problem is they're not just going to loan money without collateral. And so what they did is they created the Act of 1871, and that act created a corporation, and the laws or contract of that corporation was almost an exact replica of our Constitution. There's some very slight differences. One difference was where it says the Constitution for the United States, it changes it Constitution of the United States. Now that's a big difference.
Legally.
Legally, that changes the chain of custody, so to speak. Because if it is for the United States, then its origin is outside of the Union of the States. If it's of the United States, then its origin is within the Union of States. Or in this case, it is now a corporation. But the corporation set out 10 square miles called Washington, D.C. All right? And this corporation is owned not by Americans, it's owned by the banking families in the city of London. So literally, Washington, D.C. is a foreign land. Does not belong. It's a 10-mile square.
Separate from the 50 states.
And it's a city nation.
Separated from the 50 states.
Now, I want to make sure I don't get ahead of myself because I do this stuff off my memory and I leave things out. The other change that was made, and I haven't even told my students this one, I've been looking for the capitalization change and haven't been able to really solidify that. But I was reading that they changed "we the people." They changed "we the people" from first capitalized letter to all caps. And that's significant, especially with regard to a corporation. And I'm going to get into that as well. I just wanted to make sure you understand that difference. Now, there's no way they were going to loan us this money if we were functioning under, and our courts were functioning under, what we would say natural law. Some people say common law. That's a less accurate term. It's natural law and the Constitution. And so by copying the Constitution, they make millions of people think that that's the Constitution for the 50 states, when in reality it's only the Constitution for the area of Washington, D.C. And I got to ask you something. What about all of our representatives representing us from a foreign land? That doesn't sound quite right, does it? Doesn't sound quite right that they can dictate to us their laws and their statutes from a foreign land. There's got to be something in somewhere where it says that can't be done. But all of the transactions between America and London would now be subject to a particular set of laws, and those particular set of laws are called Admiralty Maritime Law. Admiralty Maritime Law. This is the law, this is the code the Crown operates under in England. Okay? And so we have been subjected to this without knowing it. We the people. And this is where things get dicey. Now what they used for collateral, the land of the United States of America was the collateral, and you were the collateral. That's right, you. I want you to pull out your driver's license, and I want you to look at your birth certificate when you get a chance, and you're going to notice something. Your name's in all capitalizations, all caps. Now, for the most part, we don't think anything of it, because we don't look at it from a legal point of view. That's a legal document. Your birth certificate, your driver's license. And so having your name all capped, we're going to get back to that, is significant. Because it basically says you are collateral to the corporation. Your labor will be used to pay off the debt. You were sold as slaves to the corporation, to the Bank of London. And it goes deeper than that. Now, don't get sad. Don't get upset about this. Because we have an amazing ending to all this. All right. So they took the real Constitution, I'm told, and put it in a drawer somewhere, and made the American people think that the Constitution that was running the corporation was actually the Constitution running the entire country. Now think about this. The president is actually the CEO of the corporation, the president of the United States. Wait a minute. That would mean that he only has power within that 10 square miles, because that corporation is limited to those 10 square miles. And if you're the CEO of that corporation, you can't tell these people in the 50 states what to do. So they've been tricking us. And by the way, this was all done without the American people knowing. This was done secretly, which makes it even worse. That's an act of sedition and treason punishable by death. The whole I think it was the 41st Congress of the United States that did this. And it was 1871. So we were bankrupt. We had another bankruptcy later, and then another one again, our third one, 1933.
Depression.
Right after the Depression. And so we kept making these deals. We started a centralized bank. Guess try to look up and see who owns that bank. They'll tell you nobody owns it.
What bank?
Federal Reserve. Boulder Dash. We are paying, it is said, are you ready for this? It is said that with all the money America has been paying in, and other countries that these criminals have done the same thing to around the world, that the holdings that these families have are upwards of $500 trillion. That's right. Upwards of that. All right. Trying to kind of go through this email a little bit before we get into this other stuff. All sovereign American citizens residing within the Republic of States suddenly and falsely were expatriated from their sovereign American status without their knowledge or consent, and their labor, souls, children, property, sweat equity, and credit became the financial collateral for the public debt, which had been converted into a public trust, which had been scripted after ancient Roman trust. So, how do we know this is all true? How do you know this is all true?
Who did that go for?
American citizens, I said that.
All the 50 states?
Yes, I said that. How do we know this is all true? Look at the flags you see in government and in courtrooms. They have a gold fringe on them. That gold fringe tells you something. It tells you that we are not under our Constitution. We're actually under martial law or admiralty maritime law. There's no difference between the two. Found that out last night. There's no difference. That means that whoever is the supreme leader has the ability to make whatever law they want for whatever purpose they want. When you go into a courtroom and you see the flags flying in that courtroom with gold fringe, you are literally entering into a foreign land. And you are not being represented properly by the Constitution. You can appeal to the Constitution and they'll laugh at you. And the lawyers know this, and I'm going to get into that too.
Who did the land owned by? What foreign land?
The courtrooms of America are operating under admiralty maritime law, which means you are not being represented by the Constitution, which means that courtroom is a foreign place to you. The moment you enter it, you've lost your rights.
What's the foreign place?
What?
What's the foreign place? Is it D.C. or London?
No, the foreign place is the courtroom.
That's not part of America.
It's part of America, but it's not functioning as part of America. So it's a foreign, you could say it's a foreign building or something like that. All right, so just for understanding. Now, we put a video out, and I recommend all of you watch the video when we're done with this. Don't try to watch it now, it's too long.
What you got, Kevin? In the back, Kevin. We had 3 chances after bankruptcy.
Yeah, now, there's a 3-strike rule with bankruptcy. On the 3rd strike, all the assets goes back to the one holding the debt. That would be the Bank of London. Our bankruptcy came due in 1999 when Bill Clinton was president. That's right, it came due. That means that the entire United States would be going back to the Crown of England. We were in the middle of an election. The bankruptcy ended in, I think it was November 2nd of that year, and we voted either the 3rd or the 4th, thereabouts. And there was an 18-day window for claims. 18 days. This is where it gets good. Because a gentleman had been studying this for a long time, and he knew what was coming. And so when the day hit, he created this, what is called quantum language. And it's called Parsi, and it's a specific language used. And he used that language to rescue the United States of America. One man. And you probably don't even know his name. You've probably never heard of him because they don't want you to know. Because they're still operating under a false system. And they know how angry you would all be if you realized all at once that you were being governed falsely by false people. In fact, Bill Clinton even said in his book that he was the last president of the United States. And that's true. He was the last president of the corporation of the United States. You got to be careful when people say United States. Do you mean the 50 states, or do you mean the corporation that represents D.C.? All right, so you have 2 things going on at once here. Anyways, he made a claim on the 50 states. He created a Title IV flag, and this gentleman, his name is Russell J. Gould. There's the last name Gould. And he protected our nation from going into the hands of England. And by the way, I found out today, or last night, that I didn't know this, but he was running around. He had to do several things within 18 days. And the Navy got wind of what he was doing, the U.S. Navy, and they assisted him in completing this because he had to go to the post office and make a claim on the post office. He had to enter into contracts, and I mean there was just tons of things that had to be done, and he did it all within that 18-day period. And so England did not get to take America because of that one man. And he became, and this sounds weird, I know, but he became the president of the 50 states, the sovereign 50 states, because he rewrote the Constitution in this quantum language just exactly the way it was back in the day of Lincoln. And so the Constitution is protected. The Declaration of Independence is protected. All those things were done. And he had to occupy certain offices. He has to be the Postmaster General of the United States. He has to be the President or CEO of the United States, but it's not a corporation. And he has to be the Chief Justice of the Court of the United States. And he is all 3 of those right now. So when you think about it, why do you think we had the trouble in the 2000 election? Who actually declared the winner? It was the Supreme Court. So a defunct court, which was no longer active because of the legalities of this bankruptcy, made a decision for a person, George Bush, who was no longer the legal president either. And so all this has been kept from us. Now, let's get into some details.
No, you didn't say that Bush, Obama, and Trump were not.
Huh?
He didn't say Bush, Obama, and Trump were not.
Yeah, so Bush, Obama, and Trump were presidents under a defunct corporation.
Not our president.
Now, let's get to a little bit more information on this Admiralty before I move on. So the Admiralty flag, I'm going to try to hold it up here for you. I can't see my own camera,
I can tell you.
so I'm going to hold that up, try not to shake.
Wait a minute, it's 30 seconds.
And
You got a 30-second delay.
okay, I'll see if that worked out. That's the flag with the gold trim.
Higher.
Okay, so now when it,
Higher. I can't see it. There's no trim on the bottom. Okay, is it on the side?
yeah. So entities that this is to remind entity. Now, when it uses the term entity, that's you and me. We are entities, okay, in this land. That the Admiralty Court is the court in which the gold braid goes around the American flag, which indicates the court is under martial law or under Admiralty law.
Barbara wants you to hold the flag up again.
From the martial law since Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln declared martial law. He never rescinded it, and neither has any other president since then. And guess what? It has to be rescinded if there's no war within 2 years. So guess what they've made sure of? That we've had a war, at least going on somewhere, within that 2-year time frame so they could maintain martial law. Now, under martial law, the Constitution is suspended. You have not been living under the Constitution your entire life. You do not right now have the right to bear arms. That's why they're trying to take your weapons away from you, because they legally can do it. Joe Biden can legally, right today, sign an executive order to make it illegal to own a gun, and it would stand up in court.
Wait a minute, but that's only in the 10 miles of Washington, D.C., right?
Technically. But not even that. Which I'll get to that.
Barbara wants you to hold the flag up again.
Hold it
Barbara
up
wants you to hold
again?
that flag picture up again.
Okay.
But you got to go higher than
I'll
that.
try and go a little higher.
I'll let you know when I see it. You can't tell yet. You're not on there yet.
Okay, that's about enough.
So there's some-
I can't wait for
that's
the...
good, real good.
Okay, good. So, when you go into a courtroom, that's what you're going to see, Barb. You're going to see those,
Fringe. The fringe.
yep.
John says no war. Trump made mention of this several times. No war building and her.
Yeah, he did make mention of that, John, but guess what? We're still in war. We're still in Afghanistan. We still have troops in Syria. So if we have troops anywhere fighting anything, that's considered a war. Why do you think they said we had a war on drugs? Use the term war. War on terrorism. That's active right now.
Biden just sent a bunch of troops to Syria.
Yep, Biden just sent a bunch of troops to Syria. So
Keep it going.
that's where we're at. All right. So whether you look at whether you're under the corporation or not, we still have the problem of martial law. I'm going to have to get going on this because I got a lot of info. Okay, this is the reason for executive orders. Executive orders. And I've always wondered, executive orders don't have an executive order can't hold the weight of law because it's the legislature that was given by the Constitution to make laws. The executive power and the Supreme Court, they can't make laws, but yet we see the Supreme Court making law and we see presidents making law with executive orders. Well, they can if you're under martial law, because under martial law, the Constitution is suspended. No longer has any activity toward you. At present, the courts of law are following admiralty law. And therefore, if you plead constitutional rights in court, you are not likely to get anywhere. Because they know, the lawyers know, the judges know, there's people that know, but they're keeping it secret from the American people. Why? Because that's their livelihood. That's where they make their money. Shame on them.
Tell them right here what happened with Bush beat him up or put him in jail.
When Bush found out what was going on, he actually had U.S. Marshals beat Gould up. They beat him pretty badly. They threw him in a Wisconsin jail, and they weaponized food against him. He didn't eat for 70 days because they wanted his Title IV flag, and he would not give it up. And we all owe him a debt of gratitude for not giving it up.
Title IV flag.
Huh?
What's the Title IV flag?
Title IV flag is, every nation has to have a flag or it can't be recognized as a nation. And in Title IV of our statutes, it describes the flag. And so he used that to make a flag his own specific dimensions to represent that Title IV flag so that he could make a claim on the 50 states of America.
Russell Gould is still alive today.
Yep, Russell Gould is still alive today.
And he's our president.
Let me explain how this works. Under admiralty law, you are looked at as cargo on a ship. How do you like that? Literally, you're seen as cargo on a ship. Let me explain how it works. You're born of water. You come out of the sea, out of the womb. This is how Britain functions today. So you're born of water. You come out of the sea, and you're dry docked at the hospital. And you are, at that point, a ward of the state. So the state sees you as being on a ship, which is dry docked, the hospital, and you are a ward. Now you know why they call it the maternity ward, because you are a ward of the state. You haven't got the birth certificate yet, so you're a ward. Once you receive a birth certificate and it's all signed and everything, and your parents sign off on it, you become a slave of the state.
Handprint, footprint.
They put your handprint on there and your footprint. You become a slave at that point. You have no rights, and your name is in all caps. And I think now I need to do that. Let's deal with capitalization and what it means with regard to admiralty maritime law. All right, let me ask you something. If there was a car for sale real cheap, and I told you that I capitalized on that, what would that mean to you? Well, that would mean that I took advantage of the situation, doesn't it? That's right. That's what capitalization means, to be taken advantage of, in a sense. In Black's Law Dictionary, there's one definition for capitalization, and then there are three sub-definitions depending on how your name is written. So the first one is capitis diminutio. I got to get this right. Diminutio, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but capitis diminutio. That's Latin because it's Rome, from Roman law. And that meaning is the diminishing of status through the use of capitalization in Roman law. A diminishing or abridgment of personality, a loss or curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications. So basically you lose all rights with your name capitalized. Bet you didn't know that. Now there's three different terms of capitalization. There is all caps, and that's called capitis diminutio maxima. And that is, the meaning is a maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization. That means every letter in your name is capitalized. The highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with it all rights of citizenship and all family rights. You don't even own your children. You don't even own your children. You don't even have right over your children.
That's why they make you go to school.
And they can make your children do anything without you having a right to complain. Then you have capitis diminutio media, and this is where the first name is not capitalized, but the last name is. And that is loss of status or capitalization, a lesser or medium loss of status. This occurs where a man loses his right of citizenship, but without losing his liberty. It carried away also the family rights. I want you to think about something. Pretty much, Brandon, we've been living in a matrix. Let's look at the word citizenship. Break it up. What does it say? Citizen, ship. You're a citizen on a ship. You're cargo on a ship. You're nothing, nothing, nothing. You have no rights. And then you have capitis diminutio minima, which is the lowest or least degree or loss of status, and that's where the first letter is capitalized. This occurs when a man's family relations alone were changed. It happened upon the aggregation of a person who had been his own master, sui juris, of his own right, not under any legal disability, or under emancipation of one who had been under the patria potestas, parental authority. It left the rights of liberty and citizenship unaltered. So that one was minimal. Now, capitis is from the Latin word capite, and it means by the head. Then you add to that diminutio. In civil law, diminutian is a taking away, loss, or deprivation. So it is a taking away of the head. You have been decapitated. How do you like those apples? Now, if that doesn't make you angry, I don't know what will make you angry. It should make you angry, because our politicians and government's been lying to us. Many of them know this stuff, and they have not come out and said anything. So as Black's Law Dictionary explains, the full capitalization of the letters of one's natural name results in a diminishing or complete loss of legal or citizenship status, wherein one actually becomes a slave or an item of inventory. Gee whiz. On July 6, 1775, that's the 1 year before our Declaration of Independence, a declaration by the representatives of the United Colonies of North America met in Congress at Philadelphia, setting up the causes and necessity of their taking up arms. And this is what they said. Now pay attention to this. This is a quote now, they, England, have undertaken to give and grant our money without our consent. Sound familiar?
No, it doesn't.
Taxes. Seizing from the colonies the right to issue their own colonial script, money, which destroyed the colonial economy. Though we have ever exercised an exhaustive right to dispose of our own property, statutes have been passed for extending the jurisdiction of courts of admiralty and vice admiralty beyond their ancient limits, for depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, for suspending the legislature of one of the colonies, for interdicting all commerce to the capital of another, and for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter. So they had these complaints that they were not able to function as a society because of the influence and intervention of the Crown of England with admiralty courts. Okay? So, through obfuscation and trickery, America has been attacked and occupied by corporate or pirate ships of war, which are the privately owned Federal Reserve and the IRS. Under Admiralty jurisdiction, commercial pirates have kidnapped and commandeered the American people into servitude. As articles of commerce under Admiralty law and the UCC, Universal Commercial Code, under those things. So, don't go to sleep on me. Don't go to sleep on me, because we're going to get into the election stuff,
Right now.
and it's good.
Two presidents, Russell and Biden.
Now, like I said, when you go into a court of Admiralty law, you can make a claim on the Constitution and it means nothing. And you can keep bumping it up until you get to the Supreme Court. And when you get to the Supreme Court, they will go by the Constitution. Not because they have to, but because they realize that's the only court America watches.
What Constitution? The new one or the old one?
Either or.
Tell me what I said.
Which Constitution, she asked. I said either or. I don't know which Constitution they're functioning under, to be honest with you. I can't figure it out. Somebody might be able to. I haven't been able to. But it doesn't matter, because the result is the same. Whether you're under the corporation Constitution, you're under Admiralty law based on the corporation. That's the international corporate law. And if you're under the 50 states Constitution, then you're under martial law. That's still Admiralty law.
Tell me why you have two presidents.
Just a minute, I'll get there.
Well, it's just
Because we're gonna end with a bang.
You gotta let us know. Getting bored.
All right.
Right now, we have two presidents.
Let's see.
2
I'm
mile
gonna skip some of this stuff. I just gotta scan it here. And I said that. Okay. The federal government in D.C., a corporation from England. This awareness indicates that likewise the corporation that is the federal government in Washington, D.C., which was incorporated in the last century in London, England, which the Freemen have pointed out as its rules, these are the federal statutes and so forth, and these too are designed for certain purposes but are required to follow the Constitution. That's the Constitution of that corporation.
The new Constitution.
And our judicial system is not for you; it's for the corporation. It's there to protect the corporation. So anything that would go against the government.
Brandon wants to know, was Washington, D.C. always the capital?
No,
No, the rule, Brandon.
Brandon, no. D.C. was not always the capital. And I got a feeling it's not going to be again. Okay. The big tech is clamping down on our freedom of speech,
Yeah.
our right of assembly, our freedom of choice.
Church.
freedom to worship, and the press going along with them and all these things. Guess who they're tied in with? They're all tied in with the big corporation in Washington, D.C. and those people that own the banks. It's all connected. And so they were going to do, this is where it gets really great, because we're going to tie Bible prophecy into this. They were going to do this all at once. Around the globe. They were going to get every one of us in a place of subservience, and they were going to pronounce a global, universal government run by the United Nations.
Is that the one world order?
That is the New World Order that you've heard about. That also ushers in Bible prophecy. And we're going to get to that. I found some stuff that I just was astounded by.
First you got to straighten out about Trump, and then before you move on to that stuff, because anybody knows it. I'm already depressed, and I know the truth. You see where the two presidents are right now? Biden is president of
Okay.
Miles. So you better hurry up.
Now I'm going to ask you some, I'm going to point some things out. Now, on to the election stuff. If you're anything like me, you're thinking something strange is going on in Washington. It's occupied by troops that we were told were there because there was a security risk for the inauguration. Since when do you need 25,000 troops for security risk for a few protesters? Something's not passing the smell test there. Here's some interesting facts about Joe Biden. He was denied a government plane to come to the Capitol for inauguration. That has never happened in the history that presidents have flown on planes. It's never happened before. The wrong song was played at his arrival. It wasn't Hail to the Chief. He was not given a customary 21-gun salute. Instead, there was only 3 guns, with only 2 of them firing. This is done at a funeral. Or, I've also heard, for a foreign dignitary. Now that you have the information that I've given you, you would understand why that would be given as a foreign dignitary. Basically, that's what Biden is. He's a foreign dignitary within America. Why was the inauguration streamed live in Spain 10 hours before it actually happened? Can anybody explain that? Why was Harris sworn in first? This is backwards and not constitutional. Some of the military turned their backs on the Biden motorcade when he went by, and they did not salute. They did not salute, and that is a requirement for service personnel. And why did the Pentagon deny access to military intelligence and operations and told the Biden staff, don't you come back? Now let's look at Trump, outgoing administration. He took Air Force One to Mar-a-Lago. They never take Air Force One. The outgoing president always hitches a ride on Air Force Two. And I heard today that Air Force One is still parked in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. Why would that be? By the way, on his way out, Hail to the Chief was played, and he did get a 21-gun salute. So, all this seems really strange until you put it all together. This is what we believe is happening. Now, here's some other evidence. 10 days before the inauguration, the 20th, the call signia of Air Force One changed. It was always called Air Force One as long as the president was on that plane. But then we had instances where we knew the president was on that plane, but it didn't have the call sign Air Force One. It was called NA. NA. So for 10 days before the inauguration. Now, it is believed that Trump turned over control of our government to the military 10 days before he left office. And that would mean that the military right now today is the one in charge of our government. So you can all breathe a big sigh of relief that it's not Biden. There's things going on that we have no way of knowing. But let's back up a little bit. I don't know, I think his name was Alexander Corsi. I don't know what this guy's reputation is or how much we can give credence to what he says, but he was speaking to a group of Jews, I think in Israel. He was telling the story about how President Trump came to run for president. And it was said that the military came to him and told President Trump that they were about to take Obama out of office forcefully because of what was going on in the government. And the military has the right to do that. That's coded in our statutes. But they didn't want to do it because people wouldn't understand, because people don't understand this stuff that's going on. And they would see it as a violent move by the military, and they would turn everybody against the military, and they didn't want that. So they wanted to do this with the help of a president, and so they asked President Trump to run. And this was supposedly in 2015 when they asked him at some point. And Trump agreed, and so this has been a military operation all his time in the government.
What about the things that Trump signed last July?
Trump made a lot of changes. One of the things he said is he's given the nation back to the American people. That sounds to me like he's dissolved the corporation.
Last 4th of July.
And that was on the last 4th of July when he was at Mount Rushmore. And you listen to his speech and listen to his words carefully. When you understand the rest of this information, you go, aha. Now some things are starting to come together. Now the prophet said that he's going to be the president for a second term. Not just one prophet, lots of prophets. Bunches of them. And so Hank Hanegraaff, one of the ones that we pay attention to, he said that January would equal justice, meaning that information would start coming out, which it is, about what's going on really. And February would be fury, which we don't know exactly what that means. We'll know when we see it. And then March will be celebration. Now guess what? Franklin Delano Roosevelt changed the day of inauguration that is written in our Constitution from March to January 20th. It used to be on March 5th or 4th, 6th or something like that. I don't know which day, but early March. So I found that prophecy interesting. And they have been breaking down these things are so sad to look at and to even look into. All of the pedophilia going on. Apparently it's a huge, huge problem among the leaders of our country. And President Trump is in the process of taking them down. And that's why you see a little bit of information spewing out here and there about girls getting released, little girls getting released here and there. They're finding them.
Released?
Yes, released from captivity.
They're dead?
No, they're alive. They got them before they were killed. This is how the deep state, or these families that have a lot of money, have been able to keep control over all these politicians in all these different countries. This is where Epstein Island comes into play. Epstein Island was used as a throughput for these people to do their bad actions. And what they would do is they would get a child. I hate to even tell you this because it is so gross. They would get a child, a poor innocent child, and they would bring a camera and a gun and a politician. The politician was told to rape the child on camera, and then when done, they had to shoot and kill the child. And that would be all videotaped, and that video would then be used to make sure that they do what the members of the cabal want them to do. And by the way, the cabal said, we will make sure that you stay in power. So they'll make sure that they cheat in elections and whatnot, and do whatever they have to do to get the people in power. But once there, you have to do. What has Joe Biden been doing? He's been signing executive orders feverishly, trying to undo the things that Trump did to slow down this crap. So, when Trump left, he's never conceded. When he left on Air Force One. Air Force One then went back to Washington, D.C. without him, and there was a permanent no-fly zone, which all former presidents have, over the Mar-a-Lago area. Then a C-17, which is a big cargo plane, flew down and picked up the motorcade, the presidential motorcade, which was there at Mar-a-Lago, and took that back to Washington, D.C. And then another C-17 flew down, and nobody knows what that one picked up except for this. When it left, that permanent no-fly zone was suddenly gone. It's never come back. That means Trump's not there. I don't care what videos you're seeing or whatever. You can see that where Jimmy Carter lives, there's one. Where George Bush lives, there's one. Where the Clintons live, there's one. Where Obama lives, there's one. But suddenly there's not one where Trump lives, because he's not there. It is believed that he's being hidden away, protected, and sometimes you'll see him pop up. I don't know if these are precast videos. There's a lot of deep fakes going on, folks.
Deep what?
Deep fakes. A deep fake is where somebody takes video and doctors it, or they create a set. There's a lot of those going on. And information is so hard to trust right now because it's all over the place. So General Flynn is with the president. He's helping the president through all this. Chris Miller, SecDef, he's helping the president through all of this. And the military's all on his side right now, which is wonderful. So they talk about the emergency broadcasting system being used at some point where they're going to run an 8-hour documentary 3 times a day. First time I heard it, it was for 10 days. The second time I heard it, they were going to do it for 3 days. They probably figured 10 days would make people go crazy. So they're going to do it for 3 days. And the General Flynn said that it'd be done in 30, or at least he seemed to be intimating that on December 31st, I think it was, so that would be January 30th. Now get this. They also said watch for the 10 days of darkness. These are, by the way, I'm getting some of this information through military back channels, through other people, so I don't know how much is valid and how much isn't. But 10 days of darkness. Guess what's happened for the last 7 nights? The Washington Monument has been dark at night. Lights have not been running for 7 days now. So watch for that when that gets to 10 days, which will be Saturday, would be the last time. Sunday would be the day that watch for something to happen, but we don't know if it will or not. It is reported that John Roberts is one of the people in the videos. And by the way, you realize they have Maxwell, which was Epstein's right-hand lady, and she apparently had copies of all the videos to protect her life against any of these bad actors as well. So if she's sharing those videos, oh my, they got a thing called Suicide Week, which is after all this information comes out, people will be committing suicide because they're so ashamed of what they've done. But the good news is that here's some other information. The Vatican's been going dark too, and it's believed that the military, have you noticed? I got so much stuff that's just pouring out of me. All right, so you had all of a sudden a bunch of cardinals dropping dead from COVID. No, wasn't.
Wink.
Wink, wink, nod, nod. They're part of the cabal. The Vatican is, I didn't even get to the 3 cities. Oh my goodness. Let me go back. Let's do that because all that makes sense. All right, first of all,
White flag.
Before I go that, there are 3 city, nation states within other nations around the
What does
world.
that mean?
3. I'm going to explain that. Now, we all are familiar with Vatican City, right? That's a state all to itself, yet it's located inside the nation of Italy. You also have London. Not London, but the City of London, which is a 1 square mile area inside of London called the City of London, has its own government. It doesn't belong to Britain. It's a foreign soil. And then you have
Like
Washington,
DC.
D.C., that is also foreign soil. And my first thought was, well, if it's foreign soil, then which country owns it? Here's where we're going to get the shock treatment. It's called the Empire of 3 Cities. Have you ever heard of that country? I bet you haven't. The Empire of 3 Cities. This is where the Antichrist comes into view. Because these 3 cities, each actually offering a different service to the whole. London is the financial arm. They're the ones that do all the loans. Washington, D.C. is the defense. That's why we go to wars on behalf of these people. We spill American blood when we shouldn't be. And then the Vatican, they're the ones controlling it. The Jesuits are controlling it from the Vatican. And under each of these cities, there's supposed to be domes, or not domes, but many underground tunnels where they do evil deeds in these underground tunnels. There was a report, whether true or not, the other day that our military went into the tunnels under the Vatican, and what they're doing is I got to back up. Trump signed something after the 2016 election that said if anybody interferes with our elections, foreign or domestic, their assets will be seized. Okay? We already know Italy did, and Italy did because they were instructed to by the Vatican. So the military, as we speak, are probably seizing those assets. Huge amounts of assets, by the way. Huge amounts.
Rich.
More than enough to pay off our whole national debt. Easily. And you see these governments starting to collapse.
Like what?
Like in the Netherlands,
Venezuela?
Russia, Venezuela, Greece, Germany. And the reason being is I think the military is going around to these countries. Oh, I got to get back to this. The reason we know this was going on when President Trump first got elected, he went to look at his travel history. Right away, he went to the Vatican and he went to London. And he's putting them on notice. We're not going to put up with your crap. We're not going to owe you a thing. You have stolen from the American people. I also come across the document, whether true or not, it had Trump's signature on it, that said basically that all assets from the Federal Reserve are the assets of the American people. And I heard the other day that the Federal Reserve was wrapped up into the Treasury of the United States.
What does that mean?
That means that
In the
we,
DC area?
but it's the Treasury. We are occupying, why do you think we're occupying DC? Because we're occupying a foreign land. A foreign land.
You mean occupying North
We got a border around it, a fence, and we're occupying it with our troops. So all of these pieces of information are pointing to one thing, that Trump is taking care of business
And he said he'll be back.
for the American people. And he said he'll be back, and we believe he is. Prophetically, that's going to be something that's going to happen.
He might change inauguration date of March.
Yep, and the inauguration date might change to March, and I think that would be a good idea, because
That's when
any
the
more
prophet said
shenanigans
celebration.
that take place in voting gives plenty of time to work this stuff out.
The prophet,
Okay, that's a whole nother issue, the election stuff.
the prophet said March is celebration.
But the prophet said March was celebration. So I want you to be aware of these things. Now, those three cities, here we go. Those three cities were setting everything up, and they had what they called the Great Reset. That's what they called it. And that's when all of a sudden everything would flip overnight. You would lose all of your freedoms. You would lose everything that you know. You would be you would be able to make just enough money to get by, and everything else would go into their coffers.
And he will be re-educated.
And you would be given the mark of the beast. That's right. The mark of the beast was already ready to be given. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Here I've been waiting for the 10-nation kingdom to raise up to give us an indication of the time we're in, and it's already here. It's been covert. It's been running underground.
What are you talking about? They don't know what you're talking about.
The 10 nations, the Daniel prophecy of the 10 toes, talking about the 10 nations. And when I'm getting excited, I shake more. So,
I have to tie you down.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get some ropes over here. Oh,
I got a question for you.
Wait a
Kathy
minute.
Gals wants to know, do you think President Trump knows about Gould?
I think they're working with Gould, because the military knew about Gould and what he was doing, and they're the ones that talked to Trump. So I believe this is all being coordinated.
We got to keep praying.
So we have to keep praying. But I got to show you some passages, some prophecies. All this time I've been thinking these 10 nations have got to appear in a global structure where we're going to be in a global government, and until we can start saying that we're actually in the end of the end days, right? Well, this election caused them to raise their head, and people are now waking up to the fact that they were going to create a global government. It was already in place. Everything was ready to go. Currency, everything. The mark of the beast was going to be a tattoo on your hand,
That clothes.
and it glows. It's called Luciferius. That's right. And it glows. And it'll have all your information on it, whether in banking, and you'll have a chip too with it.
Tell them about the vaccine.
Vaccine, it would tell you whether or not you had that vaccine. And you would not be able to buy or sell unless you had it. Now I want to read you some scripture out of Revelations. Okay, let's go. Revelation 17, verse 7. And the angel said to me, why do you wonder? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has 7 heads and the 10 horns. Now when I wrote my book, we come to the conclusion that the 7 heads represented the 7 world empires. 6 world empires have started and fallen already, the Rome being the last one. The 7th will be the last one, so that's the representation of the 7 heads on the beast. If you haven't read my book, I recommend you get it, as I believe it is still the best book on end times
It's also online.
out there. It's online, it's in Amazon, whatever.
On video.
It's also on video, in 20 videos, on our website. So the 10 horns. Get this. Let's keep reading. Let's jump down to verse 12. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have not. Get this. Who have not yet received a kingdom.
What do you mean by that?
Wow. There's the 10 banking families that had everything set up to take over the world, but they don't have a kingdom. Let me break this down. These families have been controlling nations through finance, but they don't own the nations directly. They don't own they don't have the land, they don't have the borders, so they don't have a kingdom. They're basically 10 kings without a kingdom. And that's just what the Bible said. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. All right, verse 16. Jump to verse 16. And the 10 horns which you saw and the beast, these will hate the harlot and will make her desolate and naked and will eat her flesh and burn her up with fire. Now, if you go back to Daniel, talking about the 10 toes, it's a mixture of clay and iron, and it says that it doesn't mix well and that there's going to be problems. Now it all makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
We're in the end times.
We are in the end times. We are, you know what, there's all these 3 cities have been operating to take away your rights, your right of choice, your right of freedom, your free right of assembly, your free right of speech, and they've been taking all this away, and there's one right left that they had to go, and that was the right to bear arms. And they realize they cannot put their plan in place until they get the guns out of the hands of Americans.
They're trying to re-educate us.
We are the last wall.
They're trying to re-educate us on knowledge.
We're that close to the mark of the beast. We were that close to the rapture of the church. Amazing.
They want to be educated to get Trump out of the way.
So this is what I want you to pay attention. Watch for false flag events. What do I mean by that? This is how the left operates. They're evil. They're demonic. I have no respect for a single one of them. I don't have any respect for anybody that votes for a Democrat. They're evil. They're wicked. And they're not connected to God in any shape, way, or form. These Democrats are Luciferians. And they're working for the world order. And some Republicans are too. But I got to tell you, watch for false flag events. This is how they do things. And they will create a gun violent event to get the American people to sign off on gun control. And they'll keep doing it until we get so disgusted with these events that we will give up our rights to bear arms.
They're trying to re-educate
They're
us.
trying to do that.
Trying to re-educate us.
So we have 2 ways to go here. They're trying to re-educate us. You've heard it in the news. These people want to put your children in re-education camps so that you don't think like a conservative.
Uh-oh, you're frozen. You're frozen.
So,
You're frozen. You're not going nowhere.
my wife says I'm frozen. Am I still live to you guys? Anyways.
Anyone else? Well, are you frozen? Are you talking to nobody?
I'm still talking because I'll use this recording if I have to upload. So watch out for these events. And we got 2 ways to go here. We keep going south. Good, I'm live. Okay. We keep going south where we end up at a place where the mark of the beast and we're out of here, game over. We're done, which is positive. Or Trump and the military with their brilliant plans in place have been operating all this time under the radar so that nobody can see what they're doing and what's going on.
You better explain the emergency broadcast system, what they're going
And that's a positive. So either way, folks, it's good news.
Tell them about the EMF.
Yeah, the military has some. Oh, I wanted to tell you this too. The military has technology where they can broadcast around the world now and take over people's televisions around the world. They tested it with Mike Pompeo and his broadcast to America something broadcast, and it worked beautifully. And so they're going to be doing it again. So watch for an emergency broadcast. They know the mainstream media will not allow them to say what they want to say, so they're going to have to cut them off. And I suppose that if any of the mainstream media stops that broadcast, there'll be enough troops nearby that operation to bust in and take them all down.
Tell them what the broadcast is going to do. 8 hours.
So they're going to do 8-hour program 3 times a day for 3 days to explain what's going on. So you can watch it over and over again if you miss parts of it. That's the information we were given. There's also the court cases for the vote cheating. That's still going to be taking place, but it might wind up taking place under a military court since these bad judges have been making bad rulings.
So who's president right now? Gould?
So who's president right now?
Gould?
Russell J. Gould. You never heard of him. He's basically the president, but he has no influence over America because nobody knows who he is, and he's so basically
So the military. Wait a
he's
minute.
so there is no president at this point. There's the military running the
Biden is only
operation.
president in the 10-mile area.
Yep, Biden is only president over a 10-mile square area of a defunct corporation.
I want you to tell them, go on YouTube.
So
I can't type.
you can go on YouTube.
I can't type. Go ahead and tell them.
What am I telling them?
The last flag thing.
Oh, watch a video called "The Last Flag Standing" by Russell J. Gould. And it's a documentary that tells what he did. There's we'll probably be posting some more videos that you can watch. I watched one last night of a sergeant major who was explaining all this, and it was just wow, amazing. So we'll get those links. I'll probably post them on my timeline. I don't expect Facebook to put up with me for much longer, so if they cut me off or whatever, we'll have to connect other ways. Always get I hear MeWe's going to start censoring people now.
No, they're going to censor Stop the Steal.
Yeah, they're going to censor Stop the Steal group, which is just ridiculous. So they're going to lose a bunch of people, and we're all going to go to Gab or others. So we're just going to keep going to these different places until conservatives get smart and set up their own server farm and set up their own platforms where they can't be threatened by these leftists. So what you're seeing going on, do not allow anybody to try to get you not to believe your lying eyes, because your eyes are telling you the truth. There is something going down. There is something going wrong with this country severely. China has 200,000 troops, 75,000 of them to our northern border, the rest of them on our southern border. The military is well aware of this. We have things ready. We have some weapons that have not been revealed yet.
Wait a minute.
Some satellite weaponry. One of them called the Rods of God, which is I guess it's around 7-foot tungsten steel rod. Comes through the atmosphere so fast and hits the earth so fast it does the damage of a nuclear bomb. It goes 200 feet down into the earth, but it doesn't produce any radiation. So, I mean, there's some really
the word is
amazing
the Chinese
stuff.
are going to come in posing as police officers.
Yep, there's reports that Chinese troops are already inside of America too, undercover, and if they ever get activated, they will be dressed in police uniforms.
They're not our police.
but they're not our police. Yeah, they already cut off the pillow guy. Yeah, Patty, I heard that.
Open it for any
Ridiculous.
discussion.
So let's open this up for discussion, questions,
Comment.
comments.
I can't even type anymore. It just won't let me block.
We live in amazing times, folks.
We need to keep praying that President Trump will get this all straightened out with the military.
Yep, we need to keep praying, pray. That's the most good that you can do right now. Pray for our President, Trump. Pray for our troops.
Biden is not our president.
Biden is not our president.
What did the prophet
The prophets have said, do not congratulate him,
That's it.
or God will hold you accountable. God's angry with that. What these people are doing. They have sold their soul to Lucifer. They've been doing satanic rituals. I didn't know this, but there's a temple on Epstein Island. Why would you need a temple at a sex slave island? Because they're doing satanic rituals. I've heard they're sacrificing children. They're eating them. They're drinking their blood. Have you heard of adrenochrome?
I'd like to tell him about Zuckerberg.
Adrenochrome
In a minute.
takes place when you put a child under great distress and their adrenals pump all this adrenaline into the blood. Then they kill the child, take the blood out of the child, and drink the blood.
It does what for you?
Mark Zuckerberg said that was the best thing that he ever done in his life. A sick human being. These people are going to meet their God in short fashion. God's going to deal with them.
I got a question.
Yep.
Because I can't type. If all this stuff happens right now,
Yep.
then Trump comes in and makes our country good and everything. And how's the end time going to come in again? Just get
Well,
raptured or what?
the end time would be postponed to another time. In other words,
So then all the
God.
bad stuff is going to happen again?
Yes, God is. If it's going the way I think it is, God is saying this is not the right time. This isn't the right time. So we're going to.
The prophets are saying that Republicans will be in power for the next 24 years.
Yeah, some of the prophets are saying that the Republicans will be in power for the next 20-some years when this is over with.
John said, not sure if he said it, but Patricia Hotepta means power of the Father. Read what John said, I don't get it.
Let's see.
Susie's got a message too.
Yeah, I'm constantly getting more information and putting this stuff together, John. So we'll keep you guys updated.
Susie's got something too. Didn't one of the prophets prophesy what sounded like?
Oh, the name of my book, Debbie, is The Failure of the Church, A Chronology of End Time Events.
It's right online, right in the room you're at right
And
now.
you can watch the videos for free.
At 20
They're under Collegian Bible Institute /FOC. CollegianBibleInstitute.com/FOC.
Yes, you can invite anybody. Read what Susie said over there about, oh boy.
Okay, Debbie Washburn, if Biden is not really in control, why do his executive orders carry weight that we have to obey? I don't think all of them do, Debbie. I think some of them the military's allowing to go ahead and go through because they don't want the American people to know what's going on.
Wait a minute, you got, Barb wants to know who's the highest ranking military officer's name to pray for.
I would pray for Chris Miller,
Flint.
General Flynn, his brother. Now, you know Biden wouldn't put him in there. His brother just got named as general over the commander of the whole army. So that's another proof that the military is in power here.
Hurry up, let me help you, Vice.
I think his name is Charles Flynn.
Let me help you.
Yep.
Susan says, I heard the news a couple of weeks ago that the current pope wanted to retire while he's sick. He's claiming he's got a leg problem, but remember Petrus Romanus, that this pope is the last one predicted?
Yes.
Tell Susie, don't tell her you're answering Susie's question.
Yeah, I'm answering Susie's question. Yes, this was supposed to be the last pope according to a prophecy given thousands of years or 1,000 years or more ago. He prophesied every pope, and this was supposed to be the last one.
Okay, here's your sister, Pam Shaw. What about all the
Executive orders.
that Biden has signed?
Yeah, don't worry about those.
In the pipeline.
Don't worry about those executive orders.
Pam.
The military is well aware of what's going on. They will not allow anything to happen that will endanger us long term. They will allow short term problems to happen, like the loss of jobs and things of that nature. This is to give the illusion that he's still in power, because they don't want the American people getting in an uproar because the military, I heard they had over 200,000 arrest warrants. Can you imagine rounding up 200,000 people? 200,000. And they wanted to take care of and this is global, by the way. This isn't just America. We're doing this globally. We're setting all these other nations free too. And so what I heard, military wanted to take care of the global problem first before they dealt with the problem here in America. So that's why we see the Vatican going dark 2 or 3 nights in a row. And we see all these governments collapsing because information's coming out on the people that were under the thumb of this Rothschild family. And we notice that Mr. Rothschild himself died. Wink, wink, nod, nod. That's probably our military.
I got all your questions here.
Yeah.
Brandon, is it the 3 nations that do not stand with the 10 nations and they go to war with them and the Antichrist overtakes them?
Yes. I think that's correct, Brandon. I'd have to look at it again. When I wrote that book, there was a really heavy anointing going on. So I don't remember everything I actually put in there.
Devil beat you when you were trying to.
And then when I was trying to make the videos, it was the most difficult spiritual warfare I've ever endured in my entire life. I felt like I was dying standing up.
My computer won't work. I'm already being shut down. I can't see anything past the question that Susie heard about the current. Oh, I can't go down farther than that. I'm blocked. You have to do it.
Oh yeah, I saw that. The Black Eye Club, Debbie. Yeah. Where all these people have black eyes because that's their initiation. Oh my goodness. These people are sick. Oh, Patria Potestas means power of a father. Okay.
I can't see the crap. You've got to scroll down after Susie asked about the Pope. My computer won't move.
Yeah, I'm afraid the pipeline shutdown, Pam, will be temporary until this stuff sorts out. So these people will lose their job, but it shouldn't be more than a couple months. Let's put it that way.
Well, they said March is celebration, so.
Yep, March is a celebration, so that's what we're looking for prophetically.
I can't scroll. I'm frozen.
Oh.
I'm at Pam's question that you just did, so go down past that. John, Capitis Dominilo. If one under one of these 3 levels you mentioned.
Oh yeah, the power of the Father, which was yeah.
Brandon, so the 7 horns are without a kingdom, and you think they are the wealthiest families?
No. The 10 horns, Brandon, are these families. They don't have a kingdom, but yet they're controlling the world. Get that? This 10 nation or this 10 kings have been in power this whole time, and we didn't even know it because they were underground. They were covert. Now they've been exposed to the whole world. And you're starting to see protests going on around the world in different nations. I can't keep up with everything going on in the other nations, but that's significant. That's significant.
Pam says, so glad God's still on the throne.
Yeah, I am too. But let's remember this,
Who are you talking to?
Pam. God's will is accomplished by His people. He does not uh, do anything, the Bible says, in the earth until He first tells His servants, the prophets. Then the prophets speak it. And when they speak it, that actually releases God to begin to do these things. So pray for the prophets, because the prophets are getting beat up really bad right now. The church is turning on them, saying they were false, that Biden had been inaugurated, and you said that Trump had 2 terms. Well, it's not over yet, but they don't see all this information that I just gave you tonight.
Biden's not our president.
So
We don't live in 10 miles around the Capitol.
So they're turning on the prophets. So pray for the prophets to maintain their strength. A lot of them are giving up because of the persecution. And we don't want that. God's put them here for their ministry, and we need them.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
If anybody wants to watch this, I have somebody else come back and watch this. Facebook might take this off in a second.
Yeah. If Facebook takes this off, if you want somebody to come watch this, that get all the information we gave tonight, that's fine as long as it's here. If they happen to take it off, we will put it on Rumble. Rumble will leave it up.
Preach it all over
But
again then.
I will then send out a link to it.
Well, I think you better do that now.
Yes, the first Roman Empire was physical. But apparently you can have an empire,
Who are you talking to?
Brandon, without actually having lands, which I never even thought of that. These people were controlling these nations all this time, and we didn't know it.
God's got a kingdom, it's us. We don't have no land.
Yeah, God's got a kingdom. It's us. It's without borders.
We don't have land.
We don't have lands. That's right.
Kathy wants to know if there's some way that you guys they can save this.
I don't know, Kathy. I'm not that techie. I've never figured out how to download a video from YouTube or Facebook or yes, but I'm recording it on my hard drive, so I will be able to make it available.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Oh.
So I will be able to upload this like on our Rumble account, and then we can pass that link around and we don't have to worry about it. And by the way, if Rumble gives us trouble, I got Brighteon.com. I know he won't do it because he's a good conservative guy.
Boy, that sounds familiar. Is that a rhyme?
What?
Rumble Trumble?
Yeah. Well, my only concern with Rumble is they're a Canadian-based company, and right now we don't trust Canada. Any country that allows communist troops to train in their country is not a country I trust.
Hey,
And Trudeau I've heard this several times from several different sources, that he's actually the son of the Castro brother.
Hey, ask them if anybody sees your film. Are you blurry or is it just me? You're blurry really bad.
Do you guys have a good picture, or is it blurry? My wife needs to know because hers is blurry.
Really bad.
The chances are because we're using a lot of bandwidth here, dear. You're receiving, I'm receiving, and I'm sending. So we have
I
two.
don't need new glasses.
Probably not. So any other questions?
I want to know what their all opinion is.
Let me make sure I got everything. Let me go through my notes here and I didn't leave
I'd
something
like to know
out.
what all your opinions are.
Yeah, we would like to know all of your opinions.
Type them in.
Just type them in. Oh, I did forget something. Here's another piece of information. Remember I told you the lawyers know all of this stuff and the judges?
Yeah.
What exam do they have to pass before they can become a lawyer?
Oh, yeah.
It's called the bar exam, right? Do you know what the bar exam stands for? It's an acronym. British Accreditation Registry. That's right.
You're a lawyer. What does that mean?
They're being taught in Admiralty Maritime Law. They know what's going on. And look forward to the day where our flag has no gold fringe around it, where we're not under martial law or admiralty law, and we are under, again, our Constitution. We've not been under it for many, many years, and we didn't know it. And they kept it secret from us.
Debbie says, thank you, this is very good, John. Says, Father,
Pam, I agree. This is exactly what it feels like. It feels like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
When I look at what the Democrats are doing, when I look at what big tech's doing, when I look at banks are canceling people's accounts because they're Trump supporters. So if you go to open a new account, be sure you ask the bank, do you close accounts if I'm a Trump supporter? Because if you do, you're wasting my time. Barb says, I have an evangelist friend who was at the Capitol when President Trump was giving his speech and all that chaos went on. She gave a word to a lady she was compelled to warn about some bad stuff coming her way. Had no idea who she was. Then she saw her on TV. She was an advisor to the president and just arrested apparently for some really wicked stuff. So it already happening. Wow. Thanks for that, Barb. Oh, by the way, don't worry about your money. They're telling us that when we come out, this Russell J. Gould also created an international banking system called the quantum finance system, and it's a fair system. And by the way, we will be under a new currency because the currency we have right now is a foreign entity, having come from Washington, D.C. It's a foreign currency. So we will be under a new currency, but we will get equal value for what we have. So some people are saying to start buying precious metals. I'm not a finance guy, so I don't know. But I would say if President Trump will not, if there's anything we understand about this guy, he will not screw over the American public. He will be fair with us. So I think we can trust it. But I'm glad you brought that up, sis. I wanted to make sure we said that. Yeah, our dad took a vacation and he buried he hid all of his guns because he didn't want anybody to steal them. And when he got back from vacation, he couldn't remember where he hid them all. So that's why my sister's saying that. We got to remember where we buried it, right? Yeah. I would have to make a list because I know I would forget.
No, you can count me. Yeah. Then you argue with me because you think you're right.
Yeah. It's like that, Pam, they give us a certain amount of rope to make us feel comfortable. And they don't want us to find certain things out, so they know they have to capitulate on some things. And so they do. And while they're running this covert operation, this whole thing was being set up to do the big reset. And by the way, I think Trump accelerated this unbeknownst to him. How? When he was running for office, he was running on what?
First time or the second time?
The first time. He's going to build a wall.
Right.
Well, the Chinese had all those troops, most of their troops in Mexico. So how are they going to get across the border in a wide berth? Because you don't want to send them all through one gate, because we'll just pick them off as they come through the gate. So I think that they had to accelerate their plan because of the building of the wall, and that might have not been for that purpose, but that's probably what had happened.
Could lose everybody. Patty said, thank you, this is very interesting, LOL.
No, I never heard that, Pam. Just before he died, he drew a map to where he hid some money.
You didn't hear what I said.
No, I don't remember that.
Very interesting, LOL.
What did you say, honey?
Patty said, thank you, it's very interesting, LOL.
Oh, thank you, Patty.
Susie wants to know when you have this uploaded to Rumble. I know people who are not on Facebook but are excited to watch this.
Okay, Susie. We'll get it up there and I'll let you know. I don't know how long it'll take me to
Tell them that I'll push
get it up.
My wife will push me.
I was just informed that my wife will push me. Oh, in his tool shed? Oh
Because
my
you-
goodness.
Because you put things off.
Nobody found it, huh, Pam? Brandon, a lot of information one needs a user-friendly handout or email to study and learn to know how to rightly talk, to discuss the contents, kind of like a Bible lesson. Tonight's information is both historical and prophetic related. Yep. That's exactly right, Brandon.
Tell
And
him to go back and watch that film again and make highlights.
a lot of people are waking up. We're finding people coming on Telegram, which is where I get a lot of this information. And they're saying, okay, I'm awake now. I didn't know that any of this was going on. And so a lot of people are starting to wake up to it.
Diana and Brian said, thank you for your hard work, Pastor Mark.
Oh, goodness, you're so very welcome. So very welcome, Diane and Brian.
Do it by yourself.
Thank you.
I hope you. We've been on it together.
Yes, I know. You're doing good, babe.
Oh my God. Let me say it again.
Yeah,
She said, thank you for all your hard work.
yeah. Oh, you're saying that? Okay.
I didn't know you worked on this all by yourself.
Oh, so they did find it, Pam. Well, good.
Yeah.
I tell you, that guy, he's something else.
It would have added to your inheritance.
Yeah, they found it. That was good. Well, God bless everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll wrap it up,
I can't even type. My typing's frozen.
and maybe we'll get to Rick Renner in a couple of weeks. Maybe there'll be so much stuff happening that we won't. We'll just have to talk about what's happening. We don't know. And we will see you again in a couple of weeks.
We didn't sit up till 4 o'clock in the morning working and talking together and doing the prophetic words and figuring it out together. All of you.
Yep. Yeah, Pastor Catherine and I, we've been working on this day and
4
night,
o'clock in the morning.
late into the morning, listening to prophetic words. And it's funny too, because the prophets, they don't know what's going on in actuality, and the people that are seeing what's going on in actuality don't know what the prophets are saying. And if they would both come together, there'd be so much hope.
That's what we were working on
And
till
that's-
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we were working on that till 4 o'clock in the morning. So we're keeping you informed, keeping it real. So thank you for all your kind words to us, and we appreciate it.
Tell them to watch that film, The Last Flag Standing.
Yep, go watch that film, The Last Flag Standing.
Russell,
There's more.
Russell,
Russell J. Gould, which I'll be posting as soon as I check them out. But good night. God bless you. And thank you for watching. See you next time.
you got 30 seconds now. Don't just hang up.